This article is a really good example of why politics is so frustrating. Before we get started, I'll just say I don't know what my schedule is going to look like. I've got a big announcement coming at 4 p.m. on the main channel. Things are changing. Probably going to be producing a lot less, but still producing. We'll see what happens. See, I saw this article, and as much as I was thinking to myself, just these people are nuts, and maybe we just need to get away from them and tone things down. This article is actually a really good example of the kind of disdain I have for politics, or what makes me feel this just kind of, I don't know how to describe it. I can just say, there's an article from Buzzfeed. YouTube's newest far-right foul-mouthed red-pilling star is a 14-year-old girl. Soph has nearly 1 million followers on the giant video platform. The site's executive only have themselves to blame. Buzzfeed is certified 100% by NewsGuard. I don't know if this is going to appear in the actual recording. Sometimes it doesn't. But, we can see that there are some important distinctions here. Handles the difference between news and opinion responsibly. Wouldn't that require Buzzfeed to put opinion on this? Gathers and presents information responsibly, clearly labels advertising. Buzzfeed sells cookware by reviewing their own cookware. So why is Buzzfeed getting a positive rating? Now, of course, when it comes to rating these news organizations on the far left who are venture backed, it's what I was talking about when I made a video saying, I'm done with this. And for the most part, we'll get into that stuff too. They hide behind venture capital in the mainstream to do exactly what they claim other people are doing. If you're not familiar, Soph is a YouTuber, and it's like edgy, dark comedy presented from like an anti-SJW perspective. She says some pretty extreme and offensive things. And yeah, I'm not even going to read it. I'm not super concerned about, look, Soph is a 14-year-old. She makes edgy content. It's comedy. It's dark comedy, whatever. I don't understand why BuzzFeed is so obsessed with this stuff, except for the fact, rage clicks. And it can be exemplified by the subhead here. The site's executives only have themselves to blame. To blame for what? A 14-year-old being edgy? What do you think 14-year-olds do? They smoke cigarettes, right? They go to their friends. They smoke pot. Kids who are 14, they're becoming teenagers, and they're doing dumb things. It's what kids do. They do dumb things. Now, sure, if you want to be upset that this kid ended up with 800,000 followers, the reason why, at least in my opinion, Soph has so many followers is not because it's far-right nonsense propaganda, whatever you want to call it. It's because it's crazy to see a 14-year-old talking like a 30-year-old man, So you're reading this stuff, and it's kind of like somebody has to be writing this for her. I don't know. I'm less concerned about the content she's producing. Sure, whatever. At this point, it's just kind of like, why should I care about dark, edgy comedy when we're a generation raised on South Park and Family Guy? How is it different from I think it's getting angrier, and that's not something I don't like. When you watch Family Guy and South Park, it's not as angry, but this is now, like satirical, pointing at the real world, and I also want to point out, too, there's a really interesting study I saw where it said that conservatives can't understand exaggeration and irony, and I wonder if these people, like Joseph Bernstein, can understand exaggeration, like comedy through exaggeration. A 14-year-old saying some really outrageous thing is, in at least my understanding, is comedy through exaggeration, right? But I guess that doesn't exist anymore. The reason I want to do a video about this is because, they do point out that Soph has posted some crazy stuff on Discord. I don't know anything about that, nor do I trust BuzzFeed. But they talk about, Miller. So here, let's do a few things. They talk about how Soph is presenting comedy in a terminally ironic style popularized by boundary-pushing comedy groups like the influential $1 Million Extreme, and adopted of late by that guy in New Zealand and the other guy in San Diego. Yeah, mass tragedies. Right. Because people say things, and then if one person says something, it means every single person is guilty. It's just, this stuff is so frustratingly insane. And this is why, I made a video a couple days ago, maybe you saw it, maybe you didn't, where I'm like, I need to quit, things are going to change. And then I didn't post anything for 2 days. And that's probably going to be the case. We're going to figure something out. I got a big announcement coming later today. But one of the, I don't know exactly where he puts it, but I was reading this article, and I saw, someone got mad that a reporter contacted her dad. So I think it's around this part. And they talk about YouTube is, let's read this. But the powers of parents over children who live online are limited, and YouTube has taken no ownership over what is happening to kids who grow up inhaling its trademark stench of bigotry, conspiracy, and nihilism. Gee, BuzzFeed, what do you think about all the kids who grew up watching your race-baity identitarian content? You do literally the same thing, and you're grown adults, and this is why I'm just so fed up. They look at YouTube. They point to people like Joey Salads. Did Joey do wrong? Of course he did. Joey made some really, really awful stuff, and he apologized for it, and he stopped making that really, really awful stuff. And all I can really say is, okay, man, if you promise not to do it again, you know, we accept people's apologies. It doesn't mean I like what he did. It doesn't mean I agree with his politics. It means, all right, you know, stop. But no one is there to call out BuzzFeed. No other news organizations. That's why I brought up NewsGuard. Where is any other news outlet saying BuzzFeed is producing opinion masquerading as fact, and they take no ownership over what they did? We know how BuzzFeed got started. We know how Huffington Post got started. They were people who understood the Facebook algorithm and were manipulating politics to get shares. No one has held them accountable. When they pump out trash after trash, lying, smearing, pushing extremism, and you see the results. Young people who are radicalized to the far left. And then they have the nerve, Vox, to take the same standard, right? So you've seen the graphs I've posted where you see the left go like that. What they've done is they've shifted the perspective. So they claim that the left, no matter where the left goes, it's center, and then it shows the right veering off. Whereas the right has actually stayed relatively like this in the same spot as per its values. So the way they do these studies is like, do you believe we need stronger border security? And they'll ask that in 94, they'll ask that in 2004, they'll ask that in 2014. And then they'll show where Republicans have moved. And they move slightly to the right. They ask same questions to the left. And the left said in 94, we believe in strong borders. In 2004, we believe in strong borders. And then in 2014, open borders, right? Now, obviously not every Democrat is advocating for open borders. The point is, these sites, for years, have been producing insane nonsense, and it's directly radicalizing people. Was Soph radicalized by YouTube? Absolutely not. Maybe technically not, right? The issue is, sure, you can find content on YouTube. You can find content that is woke, broke, red-pilled, whatever you want to call it. It exists everywhere. However, on Facebook, the algorithm was gamed to prop up far-left identitarianism that was being shared immediately. So the way I explained it in the last video is, when you go on YouTube, YouTube recommends something to you. It may or may not recommend the same topic, right? I get a bunch of skateboarding and Dragon Ball Z videos. On Facebook, BuzzFeed has to keep one-upping themselves, but you are sharing those articles. That's the goal. The goal of YouTube is to get you to watch, but the goal of BuzzFeed on Facebook is to get you to read and then share. 2 steps. YouTube 1 step, which means, yeah, sure, YouTube can radicalize. Content creators can keep trying to one-up themselves and be edgier and edgier, of course. But BuzzFeed does it so much faster. So much faster. Because they can actually see, they have something called, they do A/B testing, where they'll actually change the headline of the content, as it's going out, and they can actually show different headlines, different regions. Their goal is to radicalize. That's what they're doing. And then they write these, and they know what they're doing. YouTube hasn't taken any ownership of the spread of conspiracy. And it's like, yeah, because YouTube is a platform. That means there's flat earthers. That means there's, round earthers. It means there's the right, there's the left. And YouTube just recommends what people are clicking. So if you click a skateboarding video, congratulations, you're going to get more skateboarding videos. But BuzzFeed has to make sure you share because Facebook will recommend BuzzFeed. They're not going to recommend the content. Which means if BuzzFeed wants shares to get more, actually, I'll put it this way. If your content is good on YouTube, of the 15 videos you see when you go to youtube.com, your video might be one of them. This video might be one of them. It probably was. 70% or so of the videos that that people watch from me come from YouTube on the front page. BuzzFeed doesn't work that way. Facebook, BuzzFeed can post something and it's going to have limited reach, especially today because YouTube deranked publishers. So what does BuzzFeed have to do? They have to make sure they have the most radical, insane story so that you click share. You don't do that on YouTube. On YouTube, you can watch the video and you might see more of that video. On Facebook, they want you to click share. So you want to talk about who's radicalizing who? Sure, you can be radicalized on YouTube. It's just not really there in the data. It's a personal choice to watch more of this content. You could argue that people are choosing to watch more of the same content. I would argue that's not radicalization. If somebody watches a video about Dragon Ball Z and then only ever watches Dragon Ball Z, I wouldn't say they were radicalized by anime. I would say, wow, they must have become a big fan. If someone watches a video about immigration and they watch a ton of videos about immigration, it doesn't mean they're now going to support or oppose immigration. They're watching videos on the subject matter, not the political ideology of the content. But as we know, Buzzfeed, Vox, Vice, Mike, etc., they do this. It's how they make money. It's their bread and butter. They they even have a correction? Pfft, whatever. This is just another example of how insane everything is getting online, and I don't see I don't see it getting better. I just don't. So I'm going to here's my plan, right? I felt like making a video. I did, right? I don't know what else I would do. I'm not going to sit around and do nothing. And this is what I've been doing for most of my time for the past several months and a couple years. But the reason why changes need to come, and I'm doing a bigger announcement at 4 p.m., is because of this. Because these people are chasing after this absurdity, So nothing's going to get better until people just decide to walk away from it, and So I'm going to restructure this channel. If you're watching, I'm going to probably do a big news story for the first video, and then do 4 more videos throughout the day. But there's a reason why I'm going to change the structure and I'm going to do these things. For one, there's like moral reasons. Everyone's going insane. And even when, you might watch my video and say, Tim, you're being rational and you're being reasonable and you're calling out, both sides sometimes. I tend to point at these people because they're so insane and they lie and they cheat and they smear. And it's kind of an issue of like, am I going to call out Soph, one random YouTuber who is a tiny bit the size of Buzzfeed? But I'll point out YouTube has those paths. It's just the data's not there. But the other thing is, whatever. I'll leave it there. Buzzfeed's never going to walk away. It's their bread and butter, and they don't care. We've seen how the SPLC is full of racists. We've seen how Mike.com. I did a video about that article where they talk about how they had a formula to guarantee virality, and the employees thought they were doing good, and they weren't doing anything. It was just fake nonsense. It was just manipulating people. It's making everyone go insane. But we'll figure it out. Some people have said, I've gotten some messages of people talking about YouTube burnout, and it's not that. It's I have no issue with working hard. I've been producing 7 videos for the past like 6-7 months, or 6. It was like 5 videos, then 6, and I don't plan on ever stopping working. In fact, that's what I was doing when you don't watch me on YouTube. I was still working, and so we've got an announcement later today. The issue is just that it's like no matter what you do, no matter what you say, it will be weaponized by these people to work for them. It's a Chinese finger trap. I'm sitting here saying like these people are liars. They're liars. This is an opinion piece, not labeled as an opinion piece, and the subhead proves it. The site's executives only have themselves to blame. Well, that's your opinion, dude. You're going to write a news story or analysis, fine, but label it. But BuzzFeed doesn't label it. And then they put links in their content where they don't disclose. They're selling cookware. BuzzFeed is trash. I used to give them more credit, but here's they've and it's going to be to varying degrees. People will agree or disagree. But they've been getting worse and worse and worse. It's like, why are they so obsessed with Sargon? Who cares? Like, if UKIP is polling at 4%, right? Will Sargon win? Even Sargon said, I think he said something about, he thinks he has a good shot, but we'll see what happens. UKIP is polling low because Brexit Party. But he's out there doing his thing, and they're obsessed with him. They're not talking about anyone else from Brexit or UKIP because they're playing this game where they point to random small channels, and that's how they generate traffic. That's how they generate clicks. Do I care when BuzzFeed writes a story about Sargon? I don't. Why are you writing about this? Because it's just about the clicks. So I'm over it. But we're gonna figure something out because I've got YouTube channels, right? I have a platform. Apparently people like watching me talk about stuff, but we need to figure out how to actually solve the problem. And calling it out and highlighting it apparently doesn't do anything because it's only been getting worse. Something else has to be done. I'm going to have another video at 1 p.m., but I've got a bigger video at 4 p.m. with a big announcement on my main channel, youtube.com/Timcast. I'll see you there.